Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining this Veracity webinar. This is the next in the series of Get Clued Up. Today, we're going to be talking to you about our recording solution. I have my colleague, Jason Wakefield, who will be presenting. We also have the full Veracity USA team on board, including Canada, Daniel, Tracy, Nadu, and Bill. So if you have any questions, they are all on board, ready to answer those. And obviously, it's great to introduce them to you for each of your regions. So that's East, Central, and Canada, with also our internal person. So without further ado, Jason, over to you, please.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. As Ashley said, we're going to do a presentation of COLDSTORE, which is our recording solution. COLDSTORE is in many ways our premier flagship product, and the aim of today is just to demystify what COLDSTORE is and how it compares to other recording solutions. As a quick overview of Veracity, we're a worldwide company. We have offices all over the world with full technical support and sales function. We were founded in 2005. And we kickstarted the Ethernet over coax transmission solutions, and that was really the start of Veracity, and we've expanded greatly since then. So a brief overview of what I think are the main features of COLDSTORE and the key selling points. And how it differentiates really between things like RAID, NASes, SANs, etc. COLDSTORE was built from the ground up for video footage, video surveillance, unlike other solutions which were really what we adopted in the industry, but were designed for data. We have several technologies built in within COLDSTORE, which differentiates it from other recording solutions and also guarantees high availability. The first one of those is our sequential filing system. And we have a brief video in a few minutes which describes that. But essentially, instead of writing across video different sectors across a recording platter, we write linearly as if it were a CD or a record player. So we're laying down a track essentially. One of the problems with hard disks is that they wear out over time through vibration and heat, and the sequential filing system is one of the things that negates that. Another technology is called a linear array of idle disks. And essentially what we do is just energize two disks at any one time. So we don't energize the whole array as if it were something like a RAID 5 or a RAID 6. And that translates to, again, extended disk lifetime, because most of the time the disks are quiescent and switched off. Another consequence of RAID is that the power consumption is very, very low. Because again, we're really just energizing a couple of disks at any one given time. Redundant hardware, again, COLDSTORE is about high availability. So each appliance has dual network cards, dual hot swappable power supplies, mirrored operating systems. Along with that, the array can be configured with additional redundancy. So the hardware is highly redundant. Disks, we don't care what sort of disks you use. They don't have to be surveillance level disks. They can be of any capacity. And including when an upgrade is done, as manufacturers release larger size disks, they can just be slotted into a COLDSTORE without any configuration. So there are three different iterations of COLDSTORE essentially. We have the embedded VMS version, which we'll probably be concentrating on a little bit within this presentation. COLDSTORE NVR, which turns the appliance into a standalone recording and storage solution, and COLDSTORE Opus, which is one of our newer iterations of COLDSTORE, which essentially turns it into a large network storage pool. There are 3 different hardware variants, and this is consistent across those 3 different COLDSTORE iterations, if you like. We have an 8-disc bay COLDSTORE called the 2U, a 16 bay, and a 48 bay. So I mentioned the sequential filing system, and this is one of the technologies that we use for disk longevity, basically. As I said, we write linearly around the outside of the disk going inwards, and this means that we don't stress the read and write head so much as a traditional disk. As a consequence of the write head not moving around so much and writing linearly, it also means that the throughput on the disk is much higher than a standard disk system, meaning we can write data much quicker than something like on a RAID or a NAS. And fast retrieval, because the system knows exactly where the archive is. As soon as you click on that archive, it will render within your client system, so it's absolutely lightning quick. So this is SFS in action. On the left-hand side, that's a standard disk where the write head is moving across the platter, and on the right-hand side is the SFS disk where we're writing linearly. Notice the difference in throughput. A very high throughput on the SFS disk. Linear array up idle disks. Again, this is one of the proprietary technologies that ensures disk longevity. So essentially, as I mentioned earlier, we're recording only to a maximum of 2 disks at any time. If it were a RAID system, we'd be recording across the entire array on every disk. Every disk would be active and storing data. We don't do that. We just do it on a couple of disks. There are 3 different levels of resilience on the array configuration, and we'll see a little animation of that in a second. As I said, the other disks are switched off, meaning that the appliance requires a lot less power than something like a RAID. And again, we're minimized in the wear and tear. So these are the 3 options for the array configuration. Out of the box, it'll be configured as COLDSTORE mirror, and really that's the heart of COLDSTORE to my mind. But there are 3 options, and the following animations will just show you what those different array configurations look like. So this is a 16-bay COLDSTORE machine, and this particular machine is configured as JBOD, so just a bunch of disks is a techie term. So essentially, we're striping just to the one disk and filling that disk up, and then we'll move on to the next disk and fill that disk up, and so on and so forth. So that's the JBOD configuration. When the array reaches the 16th bay, it will start again at bay 1 in a ring buffer type formation. Of course, the problem with only recording to a single disk is if we were to lose that disk, if it were to become faulty, we will lose everything that is recorded on that disk. So as an example, 16-bay machine typically records for 30 days. If we lose a disk, we've lost a couple of days of storage. In the event of that happening, however, COLDSTORE will recognize that it's got a faulty disk, write it out of the array, and continue on with the next disks in the sequence. So that's JBOD. However, The COLDSTORE mirror, as I mentioned, is really what defines COLDSTORE to my mind. And this is where we record the same footage to 2 disks at the same time, but only maintain one of those disks. So we've got resilience during the recording process. The way this works is we would record on disks 1 and 2. They fill up, and then 2 becomes the primary disk, and the 3rd becomes the secondary, and so on and so forth. So we've always got a backup during that write process. Again, in the event of a disk failure, we've lost nothing in this scenario. We've lost the disk, but we haven't lost the data because it's maintained on the primary disk here. So it's a lot better option than JBOD. I wouldn't recommend configuring a COLDSTORE as JBOD because there's no benefit from it. And then thirdly, we have a super high security configuration, if you like, which is 2 disks. And this is a full mirrored pair configuration. And in this config, we record the same data to 2 disks and then maintain that data. So when those disks become quiescent, the data is still maintained on 2 disks. A very high security solution. The downside of that, of course, you've probably realized, is that we're halving the retention time because we're using twice the amount of storage. So they're the 3 array configuration. Detailed the different hardware variants earlier. We'll look at those in a little bit more detail in a second. What's common between the COLDSTORE platform are basically the features that we see in front of us. They all run Linux OS, which is on mirrored SSDs. So again, another layer of resilience. The embedded appliances hold the server service within a container on the appliance. So the appliance becomes a recording and server solution. We can replace disks. We can expand the array and do pretty much anything we want with it without having to power down the appliance. So it's always recording. The only time really a COLDSTORE is not recording is when we do a firmware update and then it's offline for a few minutes. As I mentioned, we don't care what disks you use. They don't have to be surveillance level because of the fact that we employ technologies that negate sort of heat and wear on the disks. COLDSTORE comes with a 3-year warranty. You're free to get your own disks, but if you buy them from us, it comes with a 5-year warranty. So, projecting TCOs is great. Hardware variants. This is the COLDSTORE 2U, which is the entry-level COLDSTORE. It's an 8-bay machine. And if we were to fully populate this with 26 terabyte drives, which are the industry, the largest ones in the industry available at the moment, we'd end up with 182 terabytes of effective storage on this machine. There are different variants, as I said. I guess the most common COLDSTORE variants are the ones that are embedded with NX Witness, DW Spectrum, and Hanwha Wave. And essentially, we just host the server service on the COLDSTORE. Again, multiple layers of resilience, hot swappable power supplies, dual network ports, resilience and balancing, and we now use industry standard main boards. So we can replace a board if it becomes faulty without any problems. And on VIF, S and T compatibility. The next appliance is the Pro 16, and as the name would suggest, that it has 16 bays. Again, fully loaded. These figures are all based on 26 terabyte drives. If we fully loaded this machine, we'd end up with 390 terabytes of usable storage. So a huge amount of storage in a fairly small form factor. And then lastly, and this is a new appliance which superseded a previous appliance, this is the 48U. And fully populated with 26 terabyte drives, we're now talking in petabytes, so 1.2 petabyte of storage on this machine. And as manufacturers release bigger capacity disks, that number will go up as well. So a huge amount of storage on a 4U machine. Very simple architecture. This is just a diagram taken from one of our data sheets. Our data sheets are very useful, actually. Most of the information that you'll need is included within that. But just a very sort of flat architecture. The cold store runs the server service, connects to the network, and then multiple clients tap into it. We host all of the software for the embedded platforms on our download portal as well. Important to understand the licensing with the embedded version. So this includes NX Witness, DW Spectrum, and Hanwha Wave. Their model is that the software is completely free. You just pay for the licenses. And there are 4 different types. So just a bit of detail on each license. Professional recording license allows a channel to be recorded, a camera channel to be recorded, and these can be bundled up into a key that contains multiple channels. Very simple to deploy. It's basically a cut and paste job onto the machine. And that opens up however many licenses you've ordered. It's important to note that license keys can only be deactivated a maximum of 3 times. So it is a lifetime license, but if you need to move the licenses to another machine, we can do that. But just bear in mind there is a sort of a lifespan of 3 moves. If you want to use an I/O module, they're supported as well by the embedded appliances. Again, it's licensed, so each I/O module requires a license. Analog encoders are supported as well. Again, 4 channels per license. So if it were a 16-channel encoder, you'd need 4 licenses for that. And lastly, the last license is the video wall license. Up to 2 displays for each license. So obviously multiple displays will require multiple licenses. But basically, invoking that license allows us to have a certain amount of control from within the client application. Other integrations that we have, I've mentioned NX Witness, DW Spectrum, and Hanwha Wave. We have a full integration with Viewscape, which is our command and control platform, Axis Camera Station, Genetec Security Center, ExactVision, Digifort, and Instax Digital, which you guys won't be familiar with. So in summary, this is for the embedded appliances. Purpose-built from the ground up, very low total cost of ownership, especially with the drive longevity. We have cold stores out there that have drives that are 10 or more years old. Low power consumption has become much more big news than it used to be within the security industry. People are looking at ways to satisfy their carbon footprint requirements. So very low power consumption. The knock-on effect of that is that the IT room needs less provision for air conditioning and UPS. And these systems are highly scalable as well. So you could start off with a very small system and scale it up to many thousands of cameras if required. And no recurring license fees, which is an important one. So they're the embedded variants of COLDSTORE. There's another version of COLDSTORE, which is the newest iteration, called COLDSTORE Opus. So of course, with the embedded and the integrated versions of COLDSTOREs, we had a limitation of what we could integrate with. We'd have to write the integration, essentially. With the Opus, it's an open platform, a web-based open platform, and essentially we can integrate with any VMS that uses external storage. So it's opened up COLDSTORE to a whole new bunch of VMSs and appliances that we didn't integrate with before. The way that that COLDSTORE Opus works is quite different to the, if you like, the standard integrated cold stores. Essentially, it becomes just a network drive on a system. So you know, it could be a Z drive or something similar, a familiar sort of interface. And we can interact with that drive as well in real time. It's not locked down. We can drop files onto it. We can open it up. We can look at files. We can play files. We can edit it. So initially, we did the testing with Milestone, Xprotect, ACS, and NX Witness. Since then, we've done testing with other VMSs. And as I mentioned, essentially, the COLDSTORE shows up as a large storage pool, as a Linux SMB storage pool on the network. Obviously, this can be controlled. The access can be controlled of who can get to the storage pool through various user levels. And this is the appliance range for Opus. So again, it's the same setup, 8, 16, or 48 bay machines with extremely large storage capabilities. Again, this is just a network schema that I've taken out of one of our data sheets, which describes the network configuration. So again, it's a very sort of flat network setup that we're looking at. And that is pretty much it with regards to COLDSTORE as an overview. We can go into more detail if anybody would like, if anybody's got any questions. But essentially, sorry.
There is one question, Jason, from Yush. Hi, I have one question. When you said we are following cybersecure, does it mean that we are doing encryption on recorded footage?
It's not encrypted. It's not encrypted. No, I think it's just the way we iterate it. We'd have to speak to Paul Renner about that. It's a different approach to COLDSTORE, the cybersecure, but it's not encrypted as far as I'm aware.
Okay, appreciate that. There are a couple of people's hands going up. Unfortunately, because of the webinar software, you'll have to put your questions into the meeting chat if you have one, if that's possible, please. Since camera technology is evolving to the higher 4K, is COLDSTORE supporting 10G?
It's all about throughput with COLDSTORE. So as long as we don't max the throughput, then yes, it'll work fine. Do you have any more?
I think we've got lots of examples of high resolution, high resolution cameras and things in installations. So not a problem.
Yeah. As long as the network supports it, and as long as we don't max out the throughput into the appliance, because there's always a bottleneck with any appliance, then it's fine.
Absolutely. Okay, let's just give it a few more seconds, just see if any more questions. What is the throughput max for a 4U?
It's essentially around a gig, but we don't really do it like that. We do it by channel counts. So a 4U, depending on the variant, we're looking at 256 channels. So if it were an embedded version, 256 channels. So we don't really go on the throughput. We go on sort of a cap on how many channels we recommend and at what bit rate. And by the way, for those of you that are listening, we do all the calculations with the storage for you as well. So you come along with your bit rates, how many cameras, how long do you want to record it for, and we'll do all the calculations for you.
Absolutely. Okay, and then one from Khaled. How's the market nowadays? Any competition, or is it sold as a unique solution over all other storages? I'll take this one, I think. Look, competition is healthy. There is a lot of different solutions out there, but what really differentiates COLDSTORE is the LAID versus RAID. You know, Jason's just taken you through the presentation where we talk about linear array of idle disks, and it's that really strong recording medium that is done specifically for video that differentiates us. We don't do RAID, as Jason said, so we don't have that risk of the array being damaged by losing disks. Look, disks are a mechanical product. When you run them 24/7, 365 days a year, you are at some point going to have a failure. Most RAID 5, RAID 6 systems are more robust now. Most drives are more robust, so they can sustain it. But what does it do to your system when it's in rebuild and things like that? We don't have that with COLDSTORE. We also have the benefit with the embedded of having your server, your storage, and your redundancy all in one box. So it's incredibly more efficient. Also the power. You know, we touched on the power. A 4U 48 bay machine fully loaded is only 175 watts of power. It's incredible. So then your UPS are reduced. I was with a customer the other day, an integrator actually lost a job, not on the hardware, not our system, on another system, but because of the UPS. The UPS just blew the project, meant it was out of budget for the client, couldn't do it. He didn't know about COLDSTORE at the time. Obviously, we've educated him now, and his future jobs will be using COLDSTORE because of that power.
Yeah, it's become a much more important thing. But also, it took me a while to figure it out myself, but actually COLDSTORE runs cold. That's why it's called COLDSTORE. Indeed, it does. It literally runs cool, so we're not sort of heating up the environment within an IT room very much.
Yeah, and Daniel's just made a good point. We're also hard drive agnostic. You know, it doesn't matter what hard drives generally. We don't have to use high performance surveillance drives like most RAID systems because of the way COLDSTORE operates. They're not running all of the time. Obviously, you saw in the graphics that Jason showed, they go to sleep in effect. So there's not a lot of stress on them. So we can use lower grade hard drives, which makes a significant difference, especially at the moment, the way the market is. Also, Khaled said, why not use it for data centers for AI if it is outperforming power consumption? COLDSTORE is specifically designed for video surveillance, or video and audio. Actually, you can do audio because it's that sequential fashion of the data. When you get to IT type data, that is probably needing RAID because of the way it does it. You know, the indexing, the way that the drives work. COLDSTORE's not necessarily designed for that. It is for surveillance. Okay, let's just give it 30 more seconds if there's any more questions. Appreciate that, Jay. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Sorry, Jason, not you. Jay's just put a comment to say that his company will be using it for all of their video storage. So I appreciate that.
So.
All right. Okay. I think we'll end it there. Look, if you do have any other questions, you can reach out to Veracity at any time. There are various mailboxes, sales@veracityglobal.com, info@veracityglobal.com also, and obviously reach out to the team that you see on the call, myself and Jason. My door is always open, always happy to receive inquiries. You will get our details via LinkedIn or on the webinar page itself. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you all on the next one in this series. So thank you very much for attending.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.